Good afternoon, everyone. Live from Silicon Valley, California, this is Success Sadhana. My name is JM, and I welcome you all to a program today where we start a new series, or this will be a repeat of a very successful series we had in the past, Superpowers. So that's the series title. So we'll dive deeper into how to develop superpowers through this series. And today's topic is an attitude of gratitude with our speaker today, Vaish, a veteran Bhakti yogi, author, and former monk. I have Vicky helping me out in managing social media today. Good afternoon, Vaish. Welcome back to a new series on Success Sadhana.
Thank you so much, JM. Glad to be here for the repeat of awakening one's superpowers, talk about what they are and how to awaken them. And as a matter of fact, just before I came on, I looked up superpower. Of course, it's generally a political distinction, has to do with a country that has more bombs than anybody else. But it's become known as a personal attribute someone might have. And in that context, a superpower describes a state or supernatural union that holds a dominant position, characterized by the ability to exert influence in a highly noticeable way. So there's a way in which we also have access to superpowers, and they may seem transrational. They may seem like, wait a minute, that's too basic, that's too simple, or don't I have to have money to do that, and so forth. No, you don't. There are natural superpowers available to us that are at they're in our palm. We can take them at any time. We just have to practice it, and that we'll see how much influence they have in our lives. So, JM, thank you very much for opening the door for all of us to come in this room. We've fit as many as 10,000 people in this room before, so feel free to make yourselves at home and come on in. There's plenty of room. And I'd like to get started this morning, or this afternoon, I should say, by doing a little bit of introspection. And if you would like to join in, what I recommend is that you just sit up a little straighter than you were a second ago and try closing your eyes. It can help to bring the mind to focus. And just breathe.
Battery 80%. Connected to iPhone 236.
And notice your breath. You might accept the cadence for your breathing. Two or three counts out and 2 or 3 counts in. And just relax, but keep an alert mind. And just notice for a moment that your breath is sustaining you, but you barely notice it throughout the day. And now bring your attention to your hands and think of how important every finger is that you have. You don't know what you've got till it's gone. If you're missing one, you'd have to readjust the way you do everything. And bring your attention to your heart. When the heart stops beating, our biomechanical robot stops walking, stops thinking. But there it is, faithfully going on. Just the fact that we have these facilities bestowed upon us that are working for us, giving us a portal through which we can improve ourselves is reason for gratitude. And now, in the spirit of developing this superpower, let's take a moment to think of someone in your life that you're extremely grateful to. When someone is a support, sometimes we forget how much they're doing. We just notice that we're going on, just like the heart. We never think of it. Only in times when it doesn't work properly, we think, oh, what's wrong with it? Similarly, with people in our lives, they can be doing so much for us that we really would have to readjust everything without them. Yet, how much gratitude do we give them? We might just take them for granted. So now's an opportunity to think of someone who does something for you in your life that you're extremely grateful for. And just bask in that feeling of gratitude for that person. And in the practice of bhakti yoga, there's gratitude at every moment, because we realize that we're being maintained by a higher power. We all emanate from the same source, and all around us there are miracles which invoke our sense of gratitude. Being provided oxygen, fruits, flowers, the beauty of nature. And very advanced bhakti yogis also see benefit in the adversities of life, that they bring us to a higher state of gratitude, remembering that we can't take anything for granted, and that there are lessons to learn in this universe, which is like a schoolhouse, to refine ourselves. Gratitude doesn't depend on something being favorable for our immediate convenience. We can be in an unfavorable situation and still feel gratitude. And now we'll say 3 mantras that are meant to open the heart chakra and evoke gratitude within the heart. Nitai and Gauranga. So I'll say them out loud, and if you like, you can follow along. Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga. Just rub your fingers and toes, wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers, and then open your eyes and come back in the room. So JM, let's go to the first slide and to give a little context of what the Bhakti Yoga system talks about as the means to recognize gratitude and also to develop it, and why it's a superpower. It's an attitude. I once came across a couple of friends, and one of them was complaining vociferously, criticizing, complaining. And I remember my other friend's reaction. It's just standing there, and he said, well, I'm just trying to be grateful. I thought that was such a nice response, and also kind of a defense against somebody who's unloading a lot of grief and complaints and criticism. Not that there isn't a place for those, but they have to be well positioned. But just my other friend's response, I'm just trying to be grateful. I realized at that point that gratitude is a defense against our own mind's tendency to find what's wrong with everything and see that I'm in a disadvantageous situation. It can become a habit of mind. In fact, I've noticed it in the media. There's a way that most things are negatively presented. There's impending doom if we don't do something. Most of them, there's nothing we can do about it anyway. And there's also a sense that, oh, so something bad just happened or is about to happen. And this is what attracts the minds of most readers, because they're thinking like that also. So this tendency, this attitude to see the world as disadvantageous and to see doom here, there, and everywhere can become habitual. I should say it is a habit that can be overcome by cultivating gratitude. Let's go to the next slide. So one of the ways that the Vedas, you don't have to be able to read that. I'll explain what's on there. That's actually a customs form for the United States. And there's one for every country. Before you go into the country, you have to fill it out and tell if you're bringing any contraband or declare that you're not. And on it, there's a box that asks you what your occupation is. So, what is our occupation? According to the wisdom literatures, our situation eternally is that we're appreciators. What will we appreciate? Everything. We come from an unlimited source. We're part of that source, and our part in relationship to the source, or our role, is to appreciate. We're small, but our appreciation can become great, and it can expand unlimitedly. So when you fill out this disembarkation form and it says occupation, try writing in there appreciator. And if someone asks you, well, what do you do? Then you can just tell them, I appreciate. It's like, well, how do you do it? It's like, well, I'm appreciating you right now for talking to me and allowing me to come into your country. There is unlimited ways we can appreciate, and whatever we appreciate, appreciates. It grows in our life. So it's an existential situation. It's our nature to appreciate. If there's a king or a queen, there have to be appreciators. I notice in the UK, one of the main things people do, since the the kingdom and the king and queen don't really have an institutional role in the sense of ruling the government, people just appreciate them. Talk about, oh, the queen is this, the king is that. And in a similar way, our role is in relationship to our original source is to appreciate. Not only appreciate the source, but also all the energies that come from the source. So would you be willing to write in appreciator in your occupation? They may not check it so closely. Okay, Vicky gave a thumbs up. She's going to go for it. How do you feel about this job? It's good work if you can get it, right? Like, what do you do for a living? I'm an appreciator. You could try that. When you meet people and they'll say, what do you do? It's like, I'm an appreciator. What does an appreciator do? I go around appreciating anyone and everyone and everything for various reasons. And then they might challenge you. Well, what do you appreciate about me? And then you'll have to find something to appreciate. It becomes a habit. You look for the situation and see what you can appreciate. Oh, look, we got a definition here. JM, what do we got?
So we have Wikimas putting in appreciate definition or etymology. 1650 to esteem or value highly, from the late Latin appreciatus, past participle of
Appreciare.
appreciatus. Past participle of appreciare, to set a price to, from ad to see ad, pretium, price. The meaning to rise in value, intransitive, is by 1787. The sense of be fully conscious of.
Be fully conscious of. A lot of times we're not fully conscious of something or a situation, and therefore we just take it as rote. The world looks boring sometimes. You just think, oh, it's just the same old thing over and over again. But if you actually become conscious of it, one thing I've been conscious of very much lately is the leaves. I don't always get a chance to be in the Bay Area for the autumn season. And I just notice how leaves are little factories. They're so delicate. They're little works of art, every one of them, especially now during the autumn season when they fall off. I have a maple tree. It's a trident maple, has 3 prongs, and it gets flame red during this time of year. And this morning when I walked out for my early morning walk, one of them had landed so gracefully on the ground in such a beautiful color. And it was stunningly beautiful, the aesthetic of it. And I was thinking, it's not only pragmatic, but it's also a piece of art. Pragmatic in the sense that it's a little factory that catches sunlight and then turns it into usable energy for the tree. What to speak of producing other elements that get used by other entities. And then the leaf itself at a certain time gracefully falls off. And I felt complete thinking of how there's an intelligence behind that, a design that came up with something that's so utilitarian, but at the same time beautiful. Nowadays, when we see packaging, for instance, there are some companies, and I won't mention any names, but they come up with items that are aesthetically pleasing. You look at them and every corner has been designed so that it looks almost voluptuous in a sense, and it looks trim, and there's no extra protrusions and that are unnecessary. And then the packaging, even, there's a way that it's almost sealed perfectly, as if it was done, and it was mathematically, and some machine is perfectly designed. And the whole experience, I see people on YouTube, sometimes they'll show a product and they open the box and they say, oh, look how this opens and this lifts up like that. And the product comes out and we think, oh yeah, well, it just happened by chance. No, somebody thought of that. Somebody really thought of design and how it's going to look when it comes, how's it going to feel when it comes out of the box, and how does it fit in your hand, and so forth. The whole world's like that to a bhakti yogi. Bhakti yogi, as mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, one of the ancient wisdom literatures, we're meant to look at the universe like that. The great teacher, who was a complete renunciate, he didn't need anything because he was so satisfied at seeing how the world's interconnected and how it all comes from a divine source. And so he was teaching his student, Parikshit Maharaj. Shukadev's the renunciate and the teacher, and Parikshit was a king. So the first lesson he teaches them is find beauty in everything. Find the intelligent design within everything that you see. See how it all is part of a supreme personal whole. And personal means thoughtful. Personal means that it was done intentionally, benevolently. And he points out how the rivers are giving free water, how the trees reach out their arms and they have unlimited fruits. Even in my backyard, I just see fig tree. It has enough for the squirrels, for the birds, all kinds of little creatures go back there. And then the humans, they have more than they can take. And it just keeps giving. Not only that, it drops its leaves, it drops the fruits that aren't taken by somebody else. And those fertilize the ground so it can continue growing, takes light, and it keeps producing. And it gives shade. It's beautiful leaves. I got an app the other day because I was so interested in leaves. And you can scan any leaf and it'll tell you what tree it comes from. And each one of the trees has a uniquely designed leaf because they have a particular number of veins on them. Even if it looks almost like the other one, you can tell the difference between one and another, but there is some difference. There is some uniqueness in all of them. So all over the world, this is going on. It's an unfoldment of a miracle or a series of miracles everywhere we look. So this was a teaching of Bhakti Yoga. The beginning is learn to connect with the thoughtfulness of what's going on in the universe and see that there's benevolence behind it. Someone designed it like this. Now, of course, you can always mess it up. You can gouge it. You can pump out stuff and leave a mess and so forth in your haste to try to get a little more comfort out of the universe. But Shukadev said, look at it, it's already built in. There's so many ways that if you just take the natural gifts that you've gotten, you can live a very comfortable life. So this is one of the first steps in developing your superpower. And it's interesting too, if we're not spoiled, and I'll go into that in a minute, if we don't spoil ourselves, if we learn to be satisfied with this simple offerings that the world has, and we become grateful for them when we receive them, then we don't need that much. There's a sense in the mind that I have to have more, this is not enough, and so forth. But we can feel enough. We can feel, when we have gratitude, we also feel satisfied. Jam, what about another slide? What do you think?
Sure. Before that, Om posted a little reflection. While driving my kids to school, I keep calling out the leaf carpets in various colors. They don't understand my excitement though.
Yeah, and that's also, you can be absorbed in one vision, somebody else can be absorbed in another in the same environment. And what you see in one environment as a great lesson, something that's speaking to you directly and that you're finding a way to be grateful for, other people can feel greatly inconvenienced or just think it's banal or something that is unimportant. Nice comment, Om. Thank you. The leaf carpets in various colors. So gifts abound. It almost sounds like a Hallmark greeting card or something like that, but gifts are everywhere. That's the point. But what's our capacity to appreciate them? That's the big question. And a superpower is when we have so much gratitude that we're able to appreciate all the gifts all the time. They're unlimited. And how do we take them in? We develop this capacity to appreciate. And part of that is seeing the interconnectedness of everything. One thing always leads to another. And everything fits together perfectly in this world. Even the jarring parts, even the parts that have been initiated by somebody doing something wrong. For instance, the law of karma. Karma is a gift. One say, oh, I don't want a reaction. No, we do want a reaction. We want to know how we're moving about the world. And the way the world's designed is we get feedback so that we don't become obnoxious. And when it comes back to us, if we're able to take the lesson, then we rise to a higher level of consciousness. Human life says the wisdom literatures, is especially meant for refining the consciousness, elevating the consciousness. There is no other way to be happy. It's just not possible. We're not happy by the interaction of matter per se. We're only happy when we're able to see the purpose behind matter and to utilize it in the highest possible way. And when we have that vision and we're able to be driven by gratitude for everything, then we see a gift within everything. In fact, in the new book I just wrote, that with the publishers now, they're just picking out the paper. There's a section there, one of the artists drew a picture of a present. And it's in a section of how problems are presents. You get a problem and you think, I don't want any problems. This is that you're not going to grow. You can have appreciation even for the problems. Imagine that. How's this sitting with everyone so far? Am I going at an okay speed? Anything resonating with you so far? It's all right?
It seems to me that the problem is present, but when it happens, you don't see that way. In the sense, you feel like, when is this going to be ending? But I mean, I don't know. I feel like sometimes it bothers, like, okay, I was, I don't know what the learning here, because you see people and they're what you call trenches, and they're what you call clinging for things, and they drag you along, and and I feel like I'm getting involved or entangled, and it's like they draw you toward making you do things, and that I feel like it's just give and take, kind of thing. So like, you say good thing about me and I say good thing about you, and nowadays soliciting happening, right? People have products and they want to sell you things, and they want you to say like my things and whatnot. So I feel like you can oblige a friend, but I feel like I'm entangling into this unnecessarily. So I don't know. Sometimes I don't know if it's a problem where I can grow. Like, can I disconnect? Can I like keep doing what they ask for? Like, it's confusing that way.
Yeah, the first thing you said, we'll talk about that. When you're in the middle of a problem, you just feel like, get it off me. Just get it off me. One way or another, get it off me. Somebody else take it. Why me? Why not somebody else?
Yeah.
Offload this one way or another. And anything, of course, we do want to find different ways to deal with problems, but it's something that we can learn to appreciate, that when we actually deal with problems, we, in a methodical way, but dispassionately, realizing that we can't solve all problems just from one level of consciousness. We have to rise above. For instance, workarounds bring turnarounds. That's a mantra we invented during the pandemic, when there were so many different variables in doing our work. And it worked like magic, because we'd come with a problem and some of our team members would come and say, oh, look what just happened. Supply chain just closed down, or this person won't cooperate, and say, okay, what's the workaround? And we'd start brainstorming that. And once you brainstorm what the workaround is, like, hey, wait a minute, this is better doing it this way anyway.
Yeah.
And when you get in that habit, when you have a mantra to grab onto and say, okay, here's a problem, what are we going to do now? It's like, we're going to work with it. It's like exercise. You don't always feel like going out and doing your reps, right? Whether you do yoga or you walk or you run or whatever, your mind going like, well, maybe just not today. But then you can rise to a higher level where you say, no, actually, when I do it, I'll rise to a level physically where I'll have to deal with fewer problems in the long run. And it's a muscle that we train to deal with situations. And the second part about association of people that drag us in different ways is a very important point, because part of advancing in consciousness or elevating the consciousness, not part, but the lion's share is association. And so when we decide on a goal, any goal in our lives, then we have to choose our association accordingly. Otherwise, we're not going to get there. If you want to be healthy and you hang around people who eat Reese's peanut butter cups, allegedly, and that's all they do, then, after a while, you're going to, well, I'll try one, 5's not bad. 10's okay. They eat 50, so so we have to, whatever it is, we have to find the like-minded people who are maybe more advanced than us. And it's possible. You can always find it. There's all kinds of people in the world. If you find the right ones and you try to exclusively stay in that, that's called Sangha, Satsanga. Find the association that's going to help you in the best way. Kennedy, thanks, Nirali. Good stuff as usual. Go right ahead.
Krishna, I just had a couple thoughts I wrote down, especially from that last slide of Gifts Abound, which is when we focus on growing pains, we often ignore our new higher perspective because we're so focused on the pain. And then also, as we go to new levels, we have new problems. It's not that there's a level above problems unless we can completely escape this world.
Yeah, it's an intrinsic problem because we're spirit and the world's matter. And part of the solution is admitting it to start with. That's something I'll get into in a minute, entitlement and expectation, because expectation is the mother of disappointment. And entitlement, forget about it. That just kills you. It kills your gratitude. It kills everything. So there's a kind of way that to be in wonderment about the world. Take away entitlement, take away expectation, be more comfortable with what is rather than what should be. This idea, this shouldn't be like that. It's like, yeah, but it's what is right now. Just be in it. And that's a practice. That's a practice one can live with. And you'll notice that people do that. They're much better at problem solving, because the more emotional we become based on the fact of what should have been, what he should have done, they never should have done this. They already did it. It's what is. And when I become emotional about it, then when it comes to problem solving, my reason goes down, it plummets. And I'll say something that entangles me more, that makes the relationship untenable from then on, and I can't fix it. But if you're able to deal with what is right now and just accept it, this is the way the world moves. Everything always ends up twisting in the wind. If I know that in advance that everything's going to go sideways, I don't expect anything to go right. I expect it to go every which way except for right. And then how do I deal with it? Same way I do with everything. Where's the lesson? What do I do now to methodically deal with this situation and pray? Let the answers come down to us. JM, was there somebody else that wrote something? I see things flashing here and there.
Yeah, we have few things coming up. One is Laksh saying, challenge is one of receptivity. To be able to see the interconnectedness of things, appreciation can only come after we are able to see it first. Most of us are too preoccupied to even notice anything, let alone appreciate.
This is why it's important to have a morning spiritual practice. I highly recommend mantra meditation. In the mantra meditation of repeating the Maha Mantra, it synchronizes all the energies and takes us back to the conception of source. So that way we've built this foundation to walk out into the world. And we have this confident sense that it's all interconnected, it's all coming from one place. Without that, as I like to say, don't shop when you're hungry. You go out in a grocery store, you start shopping. Why'd you get all this stuff? I was hungry. So similarly, if we go out into the world without establishing this foundation of a sense of how everything's interconnected, everything's happening for a reason and so forth, then I start making irrational decisions, emotional decisions, which tend to be irrational and so forth. What else, JM?
We have Mayank, who shared, really liked what Vaish mentioned in the beginning today. Gratitude doesn't depend on something being favorable to our immediate convenience. Can be in an unfavorable situation and still feel gratitude.
Yes. If you can rise to that standard, then where in the world can you go where you won't feel at home? Because you have this sense that it's dependent on my reaction to the way things are unfolding rather than what's unfolding. And of course, that's self-help 101, right? But it's taken to the highest level in the wisdom literatures when they say, no, this is the foundation of your life, is to remember that whatever's happening to you is a lesson, either up or down, whether it goes along with our plan or not. It's a lesson for us to take, and don't own the result. That's another thing that Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. Don't hang on to everything and claim it to be mine, because if you claim the upside, you're going to have to claim the downside too. And if you act as an instrument and you're not attached to the results, Krishna says, then you don't get the reaction. It's a better way to live. It really is. It's a much better way to live than be attached to everything, including the result of whatever we do. We can't, if we claim that I'm the doer and I did this, I'm responsible for it, instead of just being an instrument and letting it unfold through me as an instrument, then you have to take all the misery that goes along with it. And there's considerably more of that than the sense that I did this, the happiness that comes with I did this. Okay, there's a couple more.
Yeah. Kennedy said, the first step in recovery is admitting you have a problem. I'm spirit trapped in matter. At least it's never boring.
That's right. Yeah, it's such a relief when we admit we have a problem and just say, I'm not perfect. I live to be corrected. I've got this specific thing going on. And then the light comes in. One thing about bad habits, or what's called in the wisdom literatures anartas. Arta means value, and then hanging on to things that don't have value. And then I try to rationalize and say, no, I need it because of this, that, or the other thing. It's better to get real about it and just say, I don't need it. I'm attached to it, but I really don't need it. In fact, it's detrimental to me. And then if you can do that, it's, as Kennedy's saying, the first step. Yeah, it's never boring. Working on oneself is never boring. It may be arduous at some point and may be scary, but I've been going by this mantra lately. It says, face what you fear and watch it disappear. Because so much of it is in the mind that, well, if I call this person, I'll be rejected or whatever. And if you just say, face what you fear, watch it disappear. As soon as you start ringing the phone and your heart's pumping, you're like, oh, what's going to happen? And the answer and the response is completely different. Or even if it's what you expected, still, you're the one who did it. You were the hero who rose to the occasion. Okay, JM, better put me on the next slide. Oh, look at Sharanagata said, really liked reaction or consequences or karma is like feedback, because I always look at karma as punishment or award, but feedback is something useful for future actions. That's such a great statement. It's right in accord with the essential teaching of the Bhagavatam, which is that if you can rise to this level of consciousness, to be grateful even for the punishment, then you're an enlightened being. Now, what's holding us back? There are modalities in the world, and we have to recognize those, says the Bhagavad Gita, in order to know how to navigate the world. So we have here three representative pictures. Starting from the right, going left, tamas means no appreciation. Have you ever been in that space where you can't appreciate anything? Did you wake up on the wrong side of the floor and then say, oh my, I hate everybody. There's a dog barking next door. Why don't they put him inside? Then there's people never clean this up. And then somebody says something to you. You always say that to me. Tamas is an intense, dark hole that we can get into, and no appreciation for anything. And then you have rajas, is very restricted. The appreciation is situational. I only appreciate it if it goes my way. That's rajas. But sattva is expansive appreciation, and gratitude, and I can appreciate my capacity so big that I appreciate whatever happens. Even the punishment becomes a reward. That's governed by the modality that I'm controlled by. So spiritual practice means ever increasing appreciating capacity. You can go to Ace Hardware, or maybe they have them at Home Depot now. It's a little meter. You can put it around your wrist and it measures your appreciating capacity. Just kidding. Otherwise, you could pick one up for Christmas and give it to somebody. It's like, hey, you're on 0. Yeah, if you could measure your own appreciating capacity, where would it be on a scale of 1 to 10 or 1 to 1,000,000? Just and see, are you able to appreciate? This sounds pithy, glib, but it works for me. Gratitude calls us to the present and the present to us. So there's a way that gratitude, which is in the mode of goodness, allows us to be present. When I'm in rajas and I'm only appreciative if it's something that gratifies my senses, then no matter what I get, it's not enough, because nothing in this world can gratify our senses to the point where they're satiated. It's like pouring gasoline on fire. I think there was a song about that. And it just, you may go down for 1 second when the fuel hits it, but then it'll come right back. But when we're actually able to appreciate a thing because of its interconnectedness, it's becomes a divine object. And we're able to look at it at the present moment, the way it exists, and not become disappointed by it in one way or another. And that's a great gift. We see everything as a gift. So it's interesting because we talk a lot about being in the present, right? That's a topic. There are books about it, how to remain present. And then we say, well, how do I remain present? But being grateful, just try it. If you practice gratitude, even if you seemingly force it and just try to be grateful, like my friend said in the beginning, I mentioned, during a tirade of complaints, he said, yeah, I'm just trying to be grateful. If you try it and notice when you're grateful, you're very present. Now, here's one. All gratitude is personal. You can't be grateful unless somebody intended to do it for you, and unless there is a person behind it, a consciousness, there is no personal intention. If you trace that back, it's why bhakti yogis see that everything comes from a personal source. So you can't say, oh, the design happened by itself or whatever, or just presented it to me as the universe gave it to me. Well, you're kind of bringing into a personal idea. The universe is sort of an entity, but it's not really clear. And if the reason these pictures are there, it's because I've noticed that children, when they draw pictures, more often than not, they put faces on things. And it's our inclination to want to see the person behind everything. Sun's a person, moon's a person, clouds, we can't see their eyes and noses here, but they're persons too. Everything's personified. And this is the conception of bhakti yoga, that everything comes from a personal source. Everything ultimately is personal. And without that sense, there's no gratitude. I've given the example before, but it fits. If somebody drops something valuable and or you'll put it like this: if you take something from someone and they don't know they gave it to you, like they dropped it, and then you just take it and you didn't tell them, you just took it. it's pretty close to stealing, right? Like you could have told them, but you didn't. You just pick it up and you take it. You can't feel gratitude for that person. I defy you to tell me why you'd feel grateful to that person, because they didn't intend to give it to you. You just took it, you stole it. And the way the wisdom literature says everything in this world is offered to as a gift, we should take it in gratitude and recognize that it comes from, it was intended to be given to us. On the other hand, if somebody thinks of giving you something, it's a sacrifice for them. They put it in a nice cloth and they hand it to you and say, here, this is for you. I want you to have this. Can you feel grateful? Absolutely, because there was the intention. It was personal, and the intention was to give it to you. So the point is that this is a kind of philosophical idea, gratitude. The gratitude leads back to the fact that we're receiving gifts all the time, but it's not random. It's not by luck. Personal attention. That's the way bhakti yogis see the universe. Someone behind it. And if you can get it, gratitude. What if you had a little bottle like this with a drop, a little stick, you can pull out one tiny little drop? I mean, just imagine how you're feeling oppressed, and then, oh, get the bottle. You open it up. Just take one little gratitude, put it on, and all of a sudden, hey, the world looks different, doesn't it? If you have one little drop of gratitude, just one little drop of gratitude. So what if you can get that? Years ago, I used to go buy essential oils in a place in Old Delhi. Old Delhi is a hoot. I mean, it's just the most rough and tumble kind of interesting place with all these little shops that have been there for hundreds of years. And one of them there, Gulab Singh, he was famous, a little hole in the wall place, but he's famous. Even people I saw from representatives from Chanel and big corporations all over the world, they come to that little hole in the wall to buy some of his oils, some of them for a bottle this size, and this size by scale would be about like this or something. They'd pay $20,000-$30,000 for some essential oils. And then if you ask Gulab Singh, you say, Gulab, you give me one little bottle, even smaller than this, that just has gratitude in it. He'll say, sorry, can't help you. I can sell you musk for $30,000 for the bottle, but a bottle of gratitude, priceless. But we can get it. It's the most valuable substance. And when we're able to take that gratitude, if we're able to develop it ourselves, imagine how wealthy we are. And it becomes a superpower for us, because we can navigate the world in a very different way when we're able to be grateful for whatever happens. Superpower. Superpower means a state. No, it means an extreme, where is it? State of supernatural union. That's one of the definitions, a state of supernatural union, that it's characterized by the ability to become expert in influencing projects and people and so on a global scale. So that's why gratitude is so powerful. And we find that we'll also affect the environment when we become grateful. When you're genuinely grateful and you appreciate things around you, then it wakes it up for other people. If you ever had somebody come to your house, and then let's say you've had a picture on the wall that you inherited from your grandma, and you used to see it every day, but now because it's been there so long, you never see it. It's just there. And someone comes over and they're looking at your house and they say, hey, where'd you get that? Wait a minute, what is that? That's beautiful. Who painted that? And oh yeah, that's from my grandmother. And it was done by this artist that was famous in Czechoslovakia and this blah, blah, blah. And the whole thing unfolds for you suddenly. It opens up and you become grateful. Yes, Rajesh.
I just wanted to add your point about when we appreciate genuinely. It happened when I was in a recent India trip. I appreciated the taxi driver. He was pretty young, 20 years old. And he just mentioned that he's a student still trying to help the things with his family because of his father is not there and so many other things. And then moment I expressed him that you're doing a great job because he's so young. What happened my whole journey later after, he just had so much trust in sharing his life in an open manner. So what I felt is when you genuinely appreciate others, they also develop a sense of trust in you as you're genuine in that sense. And he was very open. And throughout the whole journey, he was seeking advice and suggestions how he could navigate while he's balancing his job and study as well. So just thought to share how powerful a little word could be.
A real life anecdote which proves the power of this substance, the most valuable substance you can get, which is gratitude, is it opens up everyone's heart. It's what makes the world go round. We couldn't move without it. It's related to trust. It's related to faith. We have faith sounds like something wispy or insubstantial, but it's actually the substance that moves everything. If we didn't have faith and trust, we couldn't move across the street, walk across the street. We trust that other people have a high value for life. They're not going to run you over and you walk in front of a car while it's at the stop sign and think like, you're good, right? We're good. We trust each other. We're both humans, right? and when you have that, then you can move freely about the world. And if you don't have it, you can't move. And when you bring these high-minded concepts into practice, you can just see it on a daily basis, how it opens people's hearts. What do we get from Mayank? Something special, packaged from, I think from AI or something.
Yeah. It's just a summary of things discussed.
Oh.
Yeah.
See the full summary. Thanks, Mayank. Okay, we got Shankari.
So a few things, picture on the wall. I just can't help noticing the Nitai Gauranga picture on your wall and the way the orchid is placed there and the flowers are coming out. And from my view here, the flowers are right at their feet. So it's amazingly beautiful. I just can't take my eyes off them. So I just thought I'll appreciate that. And then second thing is there's a very senior Bhakti yogi here in Alachua, Pran Govind Das. Whenever he takes a session, he always makes sure that somebody from the group expresses gratitude. He makes it a point every single time. And he's doing 3-4 presentations a day. So every time he makes somebody do that. And he says that the more we express our gratitude, our heart becomes more fertile to receive the knowledge that we've gathered to receive. And all the slides that you said about how gratitude is so personal, how whatever we appreciates, everything just fits into that yes, we take time to think about the contributions that people have. Maybe sometimes we just take it for granted, but then when we are asked to express gratitude, we actually slow down and think about those points. And then we really think that these are such valuable things that have been given to me, the gifts. And I just thought that, oh, probably I deserved it all the while, or they were just there, I had to pick it up. But really showing gratitude, it just makes us so much more focused on what these people have done for us. And then last thing I would say is that in the Wisdom of the Sages very recently, they were discussing about some problems. Somebody asked a question as to, how to deal with situations and stuff like that. And Kaustubh, he made this comment that the issue is never the issue. The issue is always the revolution. So then he expanded on this and he said that the way we perceive problems, the problems are really not the problem, but how we are perceiving it and what kind of a revolution we require in our consciousness to rise above those issues. That's what really matters. So let's not just get stuck with the problem, as you were saying. What's been done, it's been done. But when we rise above that situation or that level, that's when we are able to deal with things. And then we can be grateful to things that, okay, this reversal has come into my life. There is a lesson. And now after dealing with it, I've actually become a better version of myself. So a few points.
Thank you. That was a plethora of points, all of them well placed. Thank you very much, Shankari. JM, we're running down on the time. Do you want to read the quote, the posting from Om?
Sure. For Diwali, I went to the store to buy some sweets and decorations. I ended up buying a whole lot that made me wait for a long time in the line. When checking out, without realizing, I expressed my thanks and wished the cashier happy Diwali. He was so appreciative of my wishes that he gifted me back with a sweet box. I was grateful that I had the presence of mind that day.
It's amazing, right? It's so valuable when you're actually a conscious act, especially when it's done out of gratitude or appreciation. It just opens people's hearts and it becomes so valuable. The real exchange that people are looking for is something conscious and loving and appreciative. And otherwise, it's business as usual. Who cares how much you made from something? If the personality isn't there, if the personal touch, I should say, isn't there, then it becomes dead. It's a dead thing. Well, Jan, we didn't come to the end of the slides, did we? Most people are just hoping to be appreciated. Yes, in one of the seminars that I do regularly, we do an experiment. In fact, I used to do it with actual signs. I had multiple signs that say, make me feel special. And we'd hang them around everyone's neck. And then we have everyone interact. And they would, it's like, okay, remember that when you go out into the world. If you meet anybody, including a squirrel, it's like, hey, what a bushy tail you have. I mean, where'd you get that? Everyone appreciates being appreciated, and it's a way to open up people's hearts. Just as Shankari pointed out, if you do it in an assembly also, start with gratitude, opens the pathway. What should we do, Jam? We're finished. It's all over. It's 1 o'clock. Well, one of the expressions of gratitude is, especially to, if you have some in your heart, is to sort of transfer it to other people. And I think really the spirit of the yogis in the Himalayas is when they have some sense of revelation, that when they take it out, they want to, for lack of a better word, or weaponize it so they can pass it on to somebody else and make sure it goes deep in their heart. So they have this way of throwing gratitude. It goes from almost one peak to the next. That is the peaks in the Himalayas. When the yogis see one another, they raise their hands like this, and it's almost as if it's shooting out of their hands. And they say this mantra, which expresses their gratitude in their heart. It comes out of their hands and it hits the other ones and it goes into their hearts. And they use this mantra that goes Hari Bol. So if you want to shoot your gratitude a long distance, like from one yard to the next, or from one peak in the Himalayas to the next, you have to raise your hands like this. It's powerful. It comes right out of your hands. Point it at somebody here in the window. Whatever gratitude you have, point it at somebody and say, Hari Bol.
Hari
Haribol.
Bol.
Haribol.
Thanks, everybody. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jam, for keeping